I'm gonna tell you a story and you'll tell me if you can relate to it. It's my first ever basketball practice, pickup game as they call it. And I remember as we're done, like warming up and all that stuff, we get in the line. We line up, so everybody standing next to each other. I look around and I'm just like, look at this guy, fucking 6'5". The other guy next to me, 6'4", 6'3", whatever the fuck. And I'm just there at 5'7", just awkward as fuck. And as we start playing the actual match, the actual practice game, I get my first possession, I'm happy as fuck. It was already big enough of an achievement that they passed me the ball. And the second I start dribbling, it may have been only like maybe 2 dribbles. Yoink! Somebody already took the ball from me. It wasn't even close, to be honest. And, at first, my confidence wasn't already dead, I was like, yeah, we'll get him next time. And after maybe 5 minutes, I get another possession. And, as I'm driving to the other side of the court, and I'm like I'm at the 3-point line, about to make my move. I managed to get the cross or whatever the move was, but then as I tried to shoot, I bricked so fucking hard that I saw like a whole team. And I mean the whole team, my teammates included, even the fucking coach, I think they're just like staring into my soul. And that was the point where my confidence dropped. But you know what little me did? I blamed it on my height. Now that my confidence was an all-time low, I would fuck up every possession I'd get. And, stuff like blocks and steals and all that should happen more often. And, of course, there was a point where they stopped passing the ball to me completely. And the match felt more like a 4v5 with a handicapped player. But as I said, I kept blaming my height. I'm not saying that height's not a factor. No, believe in yourself, bullshit. You can't genetically change your height. However, you shouldn't let that get into your head. Just because you're shorter than everybody, and yes, you are at a disadvantage, like dead ass, that shouldn't completely kill your confidence. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it to you. There is no way to get around this. You're going to have to go for this discomfort of fucking up every play. Just because. Just because, I can't explain it myself. I feel like all hoopers have to go through this at some point. It either happens early or it happens later. You just get smacked. You feel like everybody's laughing at your ass. But it's inevitable. You're gonna have to go through that. There is no growth without going through that. It's like, think of planting a tree. You want the tree to grow big and strong and all that shit. How are you going to do that? How are you going to grow the tree with no water? Water's, it's this analogy is exactly how you should think of basketball or any sport in general. Anything that requires confidence. That's the best way to think about it. The tree is your confidence. And water is that level of discomfort you have to go through. Because without it, the tree's not going to grow. It's an inevitable part of making progress, and there is no skipping it. You cannot skip the bad days. Without the bad days, there's no good days. That's a no-brainer, at least to me. Maybe it wasn't to you, but I hope you take this advice to heart. There is no way to make progress without going for the bad days. Trust me when I tell you. Okay, but you've clicked on this video for one reason. oh, Miss Shredder, I'm like 5'4" or under. This is a funny analogy. What can you actually do to increase your size? Right. Once again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm just going to give you the outright truth. And the truth that I'm going to give you is you cannot change your height. Oh no, they clicked off the video. Just kind of have to accept it, you know. Well, one thing you can do is if you have like basketball, it's not a basketball shoe, but if you have a basketball shoe, then it adds like maybe 2 inches to your height, which is still pretty big difference. But genetically speaking, you can't do much to improve your actual height unless you have a League of Legends player posture and you look like this. And of course, you can like do some stretching to fix that. But there is one thing you can do that it's not height, but it's like the opposite of it, sort of. Not really, but you probably know what I mean by now. You need to put on size. I'm gonna have 2 pictures of how I used to look like and how I look like now after a year of lifting weights. And there's this common myth within basketball players, or just sports guys in general, that, oh, I'm gonna get too big for my sports. Nah. You're not. Trust me, and I'll tell you. It all depends on the style of training you implement. Because if you're gonna go to the gym and use like the big machines that don't correlate with real life movements, then you're dead ass not gonna make any progress. What you need to do is do exercises that actually correlate with what you do in real life. Does that make sense? So instead of let's think of our legs, for example. Instead of doing a seated leg press, what you should instead do is focus on movements like squats or vertical jumps, because those are the exercises that are actually going to correlate. And before I hear, oh, Shredder, but I don't have a gym, or oh, Shredder, I'm too scared to go to the gym. You can train at home. You can train at home. It really doesn't have to be complicated. Wait. You can, a backpack is enough to have a good workout. A literal backpack. Just fill it with heavy objects and do like squats or some shit. I'm not a scientist. I'm just giving you my bro science to this shit. I could show you a couple YouTubers that are definitely worth checking out if you want to start off lifting. And as I said, if you have the choice between training at home and training at the gym, I would 100% go for the gym. It's just more convenient. I'm thinking of a good way to say this right now. I suck at camera. When you're at home, there are many more distractions. When you're at the gym, on the other hand, it's like you came there to work out. So you're actually gonna work out. And I'm telling you this from experience. Some people aren't like me, and I really hope you're not. But when I trained at home, it's just back then my attention was just like scattered across all the things that were in my room, and I never had a genuinely good workout. However, it is not to say that just because you can't go to the gym, you shouldn't train at all. It's way better to train at home than to not train at all. It's dead ass. Another very important thing to increase your size is diet. Probably more important than actual lifting weights for a basketball player. Your diet is key. And same thing for lifting. I'm not a scientist. I'm a 16-year-old recording in my room who just likes to play hoop, and I'm just telling you what worked for me. What you need to do, the simplified version of dieting in general, you have your calorie maintenance. the amount of calories you around eat in a day. It's an estimate. And all you need to know is to gain weight, you need to be over this calorie surplus. And same analogy applies for losing weight. To lose weight, you need to be under the deficit. Simple. Now, there are like different types of diets and all that shit you could get into, but diets are meant to be sustainable. You know, when you buy a cookbook on, best diets for X, whatever, and you just read it, you're not gonna find anything particularly useful for you. Why? Because it's not sustainable. You're just given a list of random foods that you probably don't even know how to make yourself. I'm just gonna say it. Unless you're a good cook. I mean, I'm not saying you're not. So your diet should definitely be sustainable. Obviously, you know, avoid fast foods or sugars and all that dumb shit. So focus on healthy foods. Now you're probably gonna ask me, but I don't know what my maintenance is. All you gotta do is literally go on this like, funny website. I forgot its name, but I'm gonna put it like here. Or you just put in there like your age, your height, your weight, whatever the fuck, your activity level or something like that. And it'll tell you what your calorie maintenance is. And all you need to do is either eat over the surplus or lower than the surplus. It's this simple. Of course, you're not gonna track calories within every meal you eat unless you're a bodybuilding psycho. And as I said beforehand, you should totally check out the Rios twins for this. They're probably the best. I could give you the simplified version to this. However, if you really want to, if you want your diet to actually be worth it, take it from a pro, not from me. I'm just here to tell you what worked for me and what will most likely work for you. You know how I said at the beginning of the video about how I was, you know, fucking up my dribbles or missing shots? I blame it on my height. I was coping. Of course I was coping. However, as a short guy, you cannot be a one-dimensional guy, you know? It's just the way it is. Taller guys can kind of get away with their mistakes because, you know, it's easier for them. But us short kids, we should really focus on skills that are actually practical for us, because you can be a good driver to the basket, or a good driver. Ding, ding, ding. You can be a good point guard who's good at driving to the basket, but when you're a smaller guy, you know, it's going to be much easier to block you or shit like that. It's kind of a reverse analogy from real life, because in real life, the smaller the target, the harder it is to hit it. But in basketball, it's kind of, if we're talking about layups, then it's kind of the opposite, because the shorter the player is, the easier, you know, it is for you to stop him. Think of you playing your 10-year-old cousin. You know how these matches would go. You would fucking smack that guy. But back to what I was saying, you need to have multiple strengths as a shorter guy. And I'm telling you this from experience, as I said. You know, I used to be just a vanilla point guard. A kid who just liked to dribble the ball. I had no jumper. I could barely recognize passes. I was terrible. But as I played ball more on like the higher level, you know, I'm just a high school player. But as I moved on from street ball games to high school, I started to really put more focus on these skills. These are the skills you're actually going to need. I see these kids all the time, you know, practicing their Iverson cross or this move or that move and all that shit. But when they're actually in the game, they barely use them. It's like these moves aren't even practical to them. It's like you're trying to move up from level 1 to level 5 while you haven't finished the 4 free levels that you missed. You need to build strong ass fundamentals. What does that mean? Get a good jump shot. I think personally the most important skill for a short guy, get a good jump shot. If I could go back in time to 2021 when I started playing basketball, I would beg myself to focus on the jump shot and not the Kyrie Irving TikToks, please. Because now I am stuck with a whack ass jump shot that doesn't look bad in particular, but I'm shooting bricks with it. I've made a lot of progress since when I started going to practice, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. So you can't be a one-dimensional player as a shorter guy. Okay, so as I said, focus on shooting. Dribbling is nice, but don't overcomplicate it. Just have like 5 moves in your bag that work real well. As I said, you don't have to overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be like a double behind the back to an Iverson cross to a spin to a 360 jelly layup. It doesn't have to be like that. What you should do instead is find like maybe 5 moves. As I just said 3 seconds ago because I can't speak properly. Just find like 5 moves that work for you. It can be like the jab cross, the normal cross, the fucking single behind the back. You don't have to overcomplicate these things. I used to be like that too. I would overcomplicate my moves all the time. I'm once again coming back to the beginning of the video when I said that I'll do this cool dribble, but then you don't remember when I said that. You really don't have to overcomplicate your things. Just stick to the basics, build good fundamentals, and thank me later, bro. I hope this video helped you out. I'll see you next time.